Alright, folks, this is it. This is the final build for the Shaman Triumvirate Edition and the completion of the series. So I'd like to thank everybody for all your support, everybody that showed up for streams and has liked and commented and subscribed to all the videos, all the donors. I'm going to have a separate video on the best, a build that combines all the best spells from all the different archetypes, and I'm going to thank all the donors by name in that one. But for right now, thank you guys very much. Support is always appreciated. So, as you can see in the demonstration portion of the video, the Shaman is by far the weakest of the archetypes, at least as far as I can do it. So let's go over the master level spells. We have Sacred Hearth. Consecrate the area as your hearth. Recast to temporarily recall to the hearth in spirit form, returning after 240 seconds or by activating the hearth. Okay, so this costs the majority of my magicka. Now, of course, that's not a fault of the mod. It's a design of my build. I don't have a huge amount of magicka, but the only thing I can think of I can only think of two reasons that you would use this. One is if you basically want to have a mark and recall spell, so you can teleport back to, say, your house to dump all the stuff you looted from a dungeon, right? In which case it's basically an expensive mark and recall spell. Sure, that's cool. It's kind of in line with some of the other teleportation type spells that are in the other archetypes. For example, the druid can teleport within 600 feet line of sight. The Shadow Mage can create a two-way portal within 100 feet. So this is probably, as far as teleportation spells, it's probably the most useful. But it has limited usefulness, right? I mean, you're going to use it basically when you're overloaded. Pretty much. The other possibility that I thought is, like, maybe you would use it if a battle is going bad and you want to teleport yourself out. But it takes too long to cast and costs too much money. Too much magicka, that you're not going to be in a position to cast it anyway. So really it's a mark and recall spell, and that's it. For the conjuration, we've got the Sunfilja. Now, I attempted to use this at one point there in the thing, but the magicka cost is massive, and then it has a 15 magicka cost per second. Now, that makes it completely useless for my particular build. If you were using Vancian magic so that it has no magicka cost, or you had conjuration reduction enchantments, then you could actually use this. But just like the Windfilja, it doesn't have enough hit points. So, I mean, it's basically a way of seeing a couple of 100 feet away, maybe around a corner or whatever. I guess that's interesting. I mean, it's, once again, very limited usefulness. Yeah, if you basically want to see around a corner, you can spend a very expensive amount of magicka. I don't know why there isn't just, like, it could be like a novice level spell, like the what's the other one called? The Eye of the Allmaker, right? Eye of the Allmaker, also very limited usefulness. At least it's very inexpensive. It's basically free for me to cast, because I have intuitive magic, but otherwise it's inexpensive. But this has very, very limited area of effect. Basically, whoops, wrong one. Yeah, no, that's the right one. There you go. So you can only tilt, you can't pan, you can't zoom. It's basically you get to see a small area around you. And you can kind of see off into the distance in one direction. And that's it. Now, if we had like that spell, but you could control like a little, you know, floating orb or something to look around corners and stuff, that would be kind of cool. But what is going on with my head? Oh yeah, that spell also messes up your animations. What is going on with my head? It's the first time I noticed that. Okay, well, let's not look at that. And yeah, so that's, like, again, limited usefulness. So let's move on to the last master level spell, and that is the Shield of Awe, which you saw me use. It reduces magic resistance, basically. Increases weakness to magic and loss of a bit of armor. It's pretty underwhelming for the magicka cost and the fact that your cast can be interrupted by being hit by anything. So you often can't actually cast this, and it doesn't have a large enough area to really be all that useful anyway. Like, the enemies have to come within it, and if they were that close, they would just be able to interrupt your cast. So I gotta say that the Shaman has by far the weakest set of master level spells. We'll go into more detail about that when I talk about sort of my overall thoughts on the mod, but for this particular build, not very useful. And I had to take the advice of a number of viewers and get a follower. In this case, this is an updated or improved version of Miko. He's got more hit points and attack strength and stuff like that. Basically needed that to make the build viable. That and the Lunar Familiar from the Lady Stone basically keeps the heat off of you, so that you can use the more or less two spells that are useful for this with this build, and that is Spirit Fire and Spirit Storm. So Spirit Fire drains 15 points of magicka and stamina per second, and when both are depleted, drains health. And Spirit Storm drains 90, does the same thing. And the cost is actually really low. Like, well, the Apprentice one's free because of Intuitive Magic, and even the Expert level is only 16. So, not very expensive, quite powerful, drains everything in short order. It makes mages unable to shoot at you, and melee characters unable to really do any damage to you. Really, you just have to worry about archers at that point. The visions of healing, these curses are interesting, but I didn't see them have that much effect. Actually, I never actually saw the healing activate, and I didn't notice the 120 points of health absorb. This could be good. And I did see this visions of opportunity sometimes pop up. So that reduces armor and magic resistance. And it's interesting, like, I mean, these things should stack, right? So you've got this stacking and this, and then I have various perks that also reduce armor and stuff like that. So when I actually got a chance to hit somebody, and I am glad I actually went with a two-handed Warhammer, because that also cuts through armor and hits really hard, especially when you have it upgraded to legendary. Yeah, I know it was a little bit of a weird thing to put a two-handed Warhammer in the hands of a Shaman, but it ended up working out pretty good. So let's take a look at my gear. So we got a Ebony Warhammer with Absorb Stamina and Health. It's on Legendary, doing 121 points of damage. Very, very nice. Pretty much can cut through just about everybody. We got a ring with Fortify Health and Fortify Magicka Regen, a crown or circlet or whatever you want to use with Fortify Magicka Regen. We got a necklace with Fortify Magicka and Fortify Health, boots with Frost Resistance and Shock Resistance, armor with Fortify Health and Fortify Magicka regen, gloves with Fortify Magicka and Fortify two-handed, and that is it. So let's take a quick look at the perks. This was another big letdown in the Conjuration tree. So Plane Meld works for your totems, nothing else does. So Edge of Oblivion does not allow you to have two totems, and neither does March of Oblivion. So all this other stuff is useless. The Elemental Potency does not make your totems more powerful, sadly. The resistance would be nice, would make them tougher, doesn't work either. So pretty much almost nothing in the Conjuration tree works on them. They do become more powerful with Mastery, and you can cast them further with Plane Meld. Atromancy, I think this also works for how long it lasts, but all these other things, it'd be really nice if these perks were changed to affect the totems. I mean, that should be a fairly easy update. I am not running the latest, as a caveat, I am not running the latest Ordinator version, so if NI has updated this since, I apologize, but yeah, if he hasn't, there's a suggestion. He probably doesn't watch these videos, but anyway, in case someone has his ear, I would just really recommend that these elemental type perks affect the totems to make them stronger, last longer, and be able to have sort of like say like the healing one and the damaging one at the same time. That would be nice. For destruction, I got pretty much everything in the cold tree, including elemental specialization, which of course I put into frost. We got all the merciless colds, the crystallize, which this one stacks with, reducing armor and halting stamina regeneration. This one, when it hits frost resistant enemies, explodes, reducing frost resistance. Hypothermia causes paralysis. This one drains more stamina. This one reduces frost resistance again on top of shatter, and finally you can immobilize them in a block of ice for 6 seconds, reducing magic resistance even more. And if they die while affected by glacial prison or hypothermia, cooldown ends immediately, because otherwise it would take 2 minutes. So the frost, I felt like frost really synergized well with some of the other things like the curses and the spirit fire and all that stuff, all the drain stuff. So enemies had like no stamina within a few seconds of being hit, which was nice. With restoration, I grabbed Warrior's Flame and Ashes to Ashes. I was trying to get Battle Cleric, which would also reduce when Warrior Flame curses a target, it would reduce their armor and magic resistance. So that would have stacked, or synergized at least. I don't know. All these things are not going to stack together, but you have multiple pieces of armor, multiple things causing armor reduction and magic resistance. So you'll probably, for the most part, have enemies that have no resistances left. For alteration, I think all I got was, since the last video was Intuitive Magic 2, which gives us apprentice spells for free. In two-handed, I got Trained Fighter, Death or Glory, which causes two-handed power attacks to do more damage the lower your health is. And I grabbed Wolfkin, which unfortunately I didn't get enough. You have to do 2 consecutive power attacks, and then your next regular attack will manifest a wolf spirit for 30 seconds. I thought that would be cool, kind of go along with my wolf companion and my lunar familiar, and could have a little bit of a wolf animal spirit companion thing going, but unfortunately that never triggered. And for light armor, I don't think I actually got anything else. Fight or flight. Just getting extra movement speed. I probably should have put that into into initiative, actually, instead. So if you are following the build, if you're doing it for yourself, I'd suggest popping that point in there. And unfortunately, that's it. I ran out of perk points for anything else, really. Like Battle Cleric, which would have been nice. So there you go, guys. Thank you very much for joining me once again for the Shaman. Unfortunately, a bit of a letdown and not the strongest of the Triumvirate builds that I've done. But some of the spells for the Shaman would probably be nice to have with some of the other from the spells from some of the other archetypes. So mixing and matching is great, but just a straight Shaman, kind of hard to make it work with the spells as they are right now. I think for changes, I think that the Filges, considering they have very little hit points, they shouldn't cost magic per second. So you can, you know, you cast it, you have it for a minute, 2 minutes, whatever. They're probably going to get killed by the enemies anyway. It's basically just a camera that lets you go around the corner. So I think having the high, especially the high 15 magic per second drain on the Sun Filja is too much. So I would recommend just dropping that entirely. Or, of course, you can use Vancian Magic to get around that as well, or cost reduction. But I mean, then you're basically, you know, altering your build to get around poorly chosen costs, I would say. The other thing, of course, is to just make them stronger. So you can keep the cost, but make it actually stronger and more useful. That would be kind of nice. What else? I was just gonna, let me just pop over and get over. There we go. Move over, mouse. The Sacred Hearth, that's fine. It's probably, like I said, it's probably the best of the teleportation things. And the Shield of Awe, make it a one-handed spell instead of two-handed, so that it doesn't, the animation doesn't get canceled when enemies are hitting you. And maybe increase the radius a little bit. I'm just trying to think of like ways to make these spells kind of viable compared to the master level spells you get with like all the other archetypes. All the other archetypes have basically a god mode in them, and this one, the Shaman, doesn't. So that is sort of my wrap up of the Shaman. I'm getting into what I'm going to be talking about the whole mod altogether. Anyway, I'll sign off now. Thank you very much for joining me. We'll see you guys next time.